Next up, we have Hoseb Dermanilian. Hoseb is responsible for leading AI and digital transformation business globally at NetApp. He heads a global team focused on helping customers build the right platform for their data-driven business strategies. As part of his role, Hoseb is also focused on developing NetApp's AI channel business by recruiting and enabling the right AI ecosystem partners and enabling go-to-market strategies with those partners. In his previous role at NetApp, he was the consulting system engineer for NetApp's video surveillance and big data analytics solutions. Please join me in welcoming Hoseb to the stage.
Hi, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Hoseb Dermanilian. I am the head of workload AI and analytics business here at NetApp. And today we're going to walk you through a couple of slides that will show you why adopting AI at scale is important from an infrastructure perspective. So welcome to this presentation. But before we move forward, I just want to make sure that whoever is listening to this and you here, our audience, understand what NetApp does. So NetApp has been in the data management business for the past 25 plus years. We have been the de facto storage for multiple enterprises globally. And we basically handle the data management, whether it is a database data management or a VMware data management, or even we create a hybrid cloud NetApp storage portfolio that we enable customers who want to leverage the hybrid cloud data management features. They can rely on NetApp. But today specifically, we are focusing on the AI aspect of NetApp's enablement, and that's what we're gonna walk you through today. So without a further ado, let's get started. Why infrastructure is very important, because, and I grabbed this tweet from Gina, and hopefully she's okay with that. And it says, the story of enterprise machine learning. It took me 3 weeks to develop the model, but it's been more than 11 months and it's still not deployed. So again, it is a very challenging nowadays to scale from just a POC into a scale-up AI platform. And probably most of you are finding difficulties, whether it comes into the accuracy of the data, the quality of the data, or when it comes to the real hardware infrastructure. Some of you are facing challenges on not having enough amount of that data. Models are out there. I mean, you probably have seen Andrew Ng, which is who is one of the masterminds after AI development recently, where he said that we should focus more on the data side and not the model side. So it is data-driven AI, and you know, we have seen that customers are totally agreeing with that. You know, quote right there, that we should focus on the data more than the models themselves. However, today specifically, we want to focus on the data management aspect of the infrastructure challenges of AI. And we're not going to go deep down on how many or cycles you need to train your GPUs with, or how much time you need to feed that data into the GPUs, but we're focusing on where the data exists, what are the challenges related to the data that data scientists today or the data engineers of today are facing. So we have asked our customers this very simple question. Actually, we used a third party to do this survey for us. And basically what we asked is, where are you doing each stage of your AI pipeline, right? If you're a data scientist on the call, you know that AI pipeline has model deployment, it has model development, it has the data selection, it has the data prep, the data integration, the different stages or the phases of the AI pipeline. And we haven't had a single answer, as you can see in front of you. Some of our customers, they do the model deployment 36% in the cloud, 30% of them do it in the edge, and 42% do it in their core data center. And you know, the ratios different for different phases of the AI pipeline. However, as one trend to notice here is that there is no single phase that is done at one place. As you can see, almost every phase has different places to be done or different places to be implemented. Now, what is challenging here, basically, right? We understand that, and we do, probably you do your AI in the cloud and some of it in on-premises. The challenge that we realize that the compute behind this AI training, and we're focusing today right on the AI training aspect. We're focusing on the AI inferencing aspect, right? We're focusing on when you train your models, when you're focusing on when you deploy your models. The main challenge here is that the compute, whether it is a GPU or a CPU, most probably it is GPU in this scenario, it is probably easy to move the stack. You turn off the stack here, you turn it on back on premises or in the cloud, or even you can do a hybrid model. It's all based on probably Kubernetes nowadays, where it's very easy to spin up the same environment at somewhere else. What is really hard is the data itself. When we talk to our customers, we have a healthcare customer where they started a little bit of doing AI POCing 3 years ago in the cloud. At some point in time, they started scaling. To them, the economics of the cloud didn't work out. They want to go back on premises. So their main challenge was, okay, we already put some data in the cloud. There's a lot of egress, ingress charges. How we create a hybrid model, how we move back to on premises, et cetera, et cetera. So the data is the big elephant in this equation. And for that specific reason, the gravity of the data is playing a big role when a lot of this data is being scattered across these different areas of the AI training. So for that, NetApp is actually positioning very well in this market, because from a data management perspective, we are helping our customers train their data, train their models, wherever the data exists, whether it is at the edge, in a garage, or whether it is in the core, in their big data centers. That core could be in a colo facility like Equinix or others, and at the cloud, at the major hyperscalers. So how is NetApp now, if you're still figuring out what NetApp is doing? So NetApp is kind of creating this data fabric at the data management layer, where we are enabling now people to move and manage their data, whether they are in the hybrid cloud, whether in the hyperscalers or on premises or in the edge. So we are creating this layer where now you can seamlessly move your data, you can protect that data, you can bring that data closer to the data scientists, right? Because above this layer now starts bringing these Kubernetes clusters where you have your GPUs, and on top of that you have your data science tools. We're going to come into all of that later on. What you're seeing on the below box is actually the products from NetApp that enables this data fabric strategy. So think about this as, when you have an iOS on your Apple, you have an iOS on your MacBook, you have an iOS on your iPad. When you want to have a picture available on your Mac that was taken by your phone, you basically use Apple's iCloud, or you basically use the iOS in the previous days. So what we're doing here is we're creating that layer from NetApp perspective, which is called Ontap's data fabric. And that Ontap is available today in the major hyperscalers. It's available in the core, as well as it's available at the edge. So, so beyond that, right, beyond this data fabric, how is NetApp helping specifically in the AI? Whatever I mentioned could be applied into databases, it could be applied to backup, it could be applied to VDI or other use cases. But what is specifically in AI a data scientist could benefit from this, right? We all know that data scientists are running multiple experiments at the same time. You've got a bunch of data science teams, you've got probably 5+ data scientists in-house. One is working on training on a facial recognition models. The other one is working on training on a predictive maintenance models, et cetera, et cetera. But at most of the time, or in 50% plus of the times, they use the same data that is sitting at some golden source, right? What they usually used to do before we start talking to them is, if you have 5+ data scientists or 10+ data scientists, the traditional way of sharing the data is copying that data across each amongst them, right? Now, if you have only smaller data sets, that could probably not generate that much of headache for you. But when you start adding data scientists, when you start adding more models, when you start adding more people, when you start adding larger data sets, that becomes a problem. That becomes a problem not from just a manual management of the data. It also becomes a problem from governance perspective. Where is this data sitting? Some of probably the purple data scientist is doing his or her work in Google. The green data scientist is probably doing her work in AWS, and probably the orange data scientist is doing her or his work on premises. Now, if they all want the same data, the access to the same data, basically they need this data to be available wherever they're doing their AI work. The previous data fabric enables that, because now with a few clicks, all people can access the data wherever they are available. And then copying the data also creates a headache. That headache comes at time costs, right? When we talk to our customers, we were talking to an automotive customer where their data scientists told us that they sometimes wait 17 hours to make that data available for them. So with NetApp technology now deployed at their data centers, they can share that golden set of data within a matter of 2 seconds. They don't need to copy that data. They don't need the extra cost of copying the data, and they're not worried about the governance of that data. Now, the 17 hours is based on the size of the data, and the 17 hours is based on how many copies of the data, right? But we are making a breakthrough. We are saving 17 hours for those heavily paid data scientists to actually do whatever they were hired to do and not wait on the data to be available. The other thing that NetApp is helping with this data fabric, with the tools that we've got, is helping create more explainable AI. And this is a very big topic. I'm sure there's a lot of sessions at the AI for about explainable data or explainable AI. But what explainable AI is basically is, if something, let's say you trained a model that was deployed in a autonomous driving car, and something happened to that car, God forbid, you want to go back and understand what happened, what was the model that was trained on. We all know that the AI is a black box, blah, 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 all that conversation. However, there's something very important, is what was the data that was this model trained on? This model could have been trained on a year ago. Who is at the mercy of tampering this data, or at keeping this data intact, right? So with NetApp's technology, we are now doing automated machine learning and AI versioning together the code with the data, which means we are tying these two together. And after a year or two, if someone comes back and asks this question on what was the data that was trained on this model, that you can bring it back. Traceability is something else that we are also following up together with the explainable AI. Data governance with such type of applications is very mandatory and very needed. So basically, whenever you tell the data scientist, or whenever you tell the governance board that we are tracking every data that is being trained the models on, we are saving, storing, backupping those data, we can also come back and reproduce those models that were trained a year ago, 2 years ago. Then we can also do that by bringing the data that was used 2 years ago. And all of this doesn't come at a huge additional cost because of all the efficiency features that we are bringing. So I was, talking to, again, one of our financial customers. In the financial world, in the FSI, this is a very big topic, right? The governance of the data, security of the data, it's all about the customer data. So we, with our technology, they were more confident about the traceability of their models, their reproducibility of their models, because data changes very rapidly in the FSI world, and they want to make sure that if they train a model every day, that data is kind of stored or saved somewhere every day. So basically, if you're thinking now, okay, I understand all of this, but I don't know about NetApp, and I don't want to learn about the new tool, you're good, because what we have done also is we integrated all what we have been talking about, all what I have been talking about in the past 14 minutes, where we expose these features from NetApp all the way into the data science tools, the native data science tools, whether they are in a fashion of Jupyter notebooks or a CLI terminal, or the automated workflows like Kubeflow, Apache Airflow. So basically, those data scientists who like what I'm talking about, they don't need to learn how NetApp operates. They can provision volumes of petabytes of data through the Jupyter notebooks. They can create clones of that data with the Jupyter notebooks. They can share that golden set of the data that we talked about across the Jupyter notebooks, over the Jupyter notebooks, or through Kubeflow, etc. So again, or the CLI utilities. This is all API'd, and we provide this fashion to the data scientists who doesn't want to learn how the storage management works? We don't want you to learn how storage management works. So basically, this is what ends up being the gold source, and the data scientists have access to the same gold source through the Jupyter notebooks or any of their favorite tools that they use, right? So we create that synergy across the teams. Now, whenever you add a new data scientist, you don't need a new copy of the data, because the other thing is probably you're thinking, okay, what if the data scientist number two or the data scientist doing experiment number two changes the golden source data? Well, with NetApp technology, we don't need 3 copies of the data, but we still maintain the changes that the data scientist number 2 is doing, and that's the bread and butter that we do with our technology. We only cost you whatever those data scientists are changing in the data. So basically, your original copy is not tampered. Your original copy is not messed with. You can keep that original copy and get back to that regardless of how many data scientists are playing with that original copy of the data. Each one of them will own their own version of data, by the way, but they're not going to tamper the original version of that data. So putting this together, is this on premises or does this work in the cloud? As I mentioned to you in the beginning, those data fabric of NetApp existing in the hybrid cloud, hyperscalers, and NetApp existing in on-premises and NetApp existing on the edge, it doesn't matter. This technology is available in the hybrid cloud model. And if you are having a Kubernetes cluster spawn in the cloud, and you have a Kubernetes cluster spawn on premises, we have different tools called NetApp Astra. We have now Spot as well, where you can manage those container-based environments and use something we have gathered together called NetApp DataOps. So what I talked about in the previous slides of, hey, how can I create a clone of my data? How can I snapshot my data? All of that, we gathered them for you in a toolkit called DataOps. The reason we're calling it DataOps because it handles the data management, and it works hand in hand with NVIDIA's containers, the NGC. It works with the TensorRT and all the different tools that the inference server container has, as well as in the Jupyter containers that you will spin up in the cloud, right? So basically, to tie all this together, how you can use this, right? Where is this available? In the cloud, we can probably spin up a software. You might imagine there's no hardware in the cloud. On premises, we have created this collaboration with NVIDIA. We believe that a lot of AI work today has been done through the NVIDIA GPUs. So we created this reference architecture called Ontap AI. So if you want to leverage whatever I have been talking in the previous slides, you're going to leverage one of NetApp's technology, whether it is in a hardware fashion on premises or whether they are in a software fashion, which is we called Cloud Volumes Ontap or Azure NetApp Files. You can find them in the marketplaces of those hyperscalers. But at some point in time, you want to leverage the NetApp technology. The picture on the right side is basically the on-premises reference architecture that we have with NVIDIA. And there are 2 ways. If you're a data center person now, I'm switching more into the data center topic. If the data scientists liked what I told them so far, they should ask their data or data center people or the IT people to pay attention to the next couple of slides. So you're probably telling me, okay, this is a hardware. Now we come into the dollar bills of millions of dollars. No, it's not. We created 2 very simple ways of consuming this infrastructure. And that also solves the problem of multiple support contacts. If my models are not working well, who I'm pointing out, is it the GPUs? Is it the storage? Is it the networking? So we created this 2 ways of consuming AI. One is a turnkey solution that is based on a reference architecture. And the second one is a pay-as-you-go model that I'm going to talk to them in the next few minutes. So the first one is actually the NetApp Ontap AI integrated solution, which is basically the turnkey solution, end-to-end solution, one contact support, powered by NVIDIA. So basically what you're doing here is if you're a data scientist and you want to leverage GPUs together with the data management features that I mentioned, you have 2 ways. Either you build your own, which is absolutely fine, or you get an integrated solution, which we put it together for you, and you don't have to do anything. What are the benefits is that it is field proven. So it's basically, this is what we do internally in our house and what NVIDIA does internally in their house. We fully configured that to you, and we deliver it as, turn on and use it. It is effortless support. So if you have models not working perfectly, if you have a data problem, a data management problem, it's not connecting to whatever you want to connect, you just phone one number and they'll take care of your support ticket, right? Now, on top of that, we're adding, we talked about the hardware piece, we talked about the GPUs, we talked about the storage. On top of that, we're adding the data science tools like the Domino Data Labs of this world. So again, this is a one place to buy infrastructure that comes with the GPUs, the data management, and the software on top. It comes in different sizes. I'm not going to go in details with this, but you can leverage that and you can reach out to us. The second way is actually the consumption model, pay as you go. So this is a cloud-like style. If you don't want to go to the cloud, we have a solution for you that we work together with NVIDIA, where you can commit as minimum as 3 months. And if you don't like it, you can just apart from us. But actually, this is a utility-based model, pay as you go, that we are offering together with NVIDIA. These are the comparisons that I don't want to go in details for the sake of the time. We can show to you later on. These are the partners that we're working on together. Some of them in the hardware industry, some of the partners in the reseller area, and some of them are in the ML ops world of AI. Last but not least, visit netapp.com/AI. This is your starting point to contact us, to reach out to us, to get more details on what I have presented today. Improve your models with NetApp. Don't miss any data point. Enable seamless hybrid cloud AI training. Bring the data closer to wherever your data scientists. Don't let them fight on which cloud is the best. We want you to utilize anything you like, and we get the data to wherever you want your data model or models to be trained. Get faster ROI because we built this system for you and bring it to you fully enabled, and turn on, use it. And future-proof, you don't need to be afraid of your investments. Reduce your total cost of ownership, because again, we're not going to come back and ask you you're missing cables. It is all reference architecture. And last but not least, bring your data rivers into a unified lake. We can connect with the most data lakes that you leverage today. So with that, I want to finish today's presentation. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm happy to take on your questions offline or anytime you want to reach out to me. Thank you very much.
What a great session. Thank you, Hoseb. That's it for today's general session. We're now going straight into our tracks. We're covering AI for everything from healthcare to finance to cybersecurity, retail, customer service, telecom, energy, and beyond. On top of that, we have our innovation stage, where you will find founders of some exciting startups. All tracks have world-class speakers, so you can't go wrong. Enjoy.